Did you print any agendas? Okay, if you didn't, but sometimes.
Do we usually bring?
Yeah, if you print them in the future.
Sure,
Today is,
I will.
that's fine.
Okay, I will.
I don't remember. Do you have the agenda, Brian, so you can run it?
I have it.
Brian's got it.
Awesome.
Our fearless leader can run it.
I will do that from now on.
I know, if there's like 2 things on it. Oh, you're fine, thank you. You've got
Okay.
lots of.
Okay. I don't know why we're not at council view. There we go.
Guess we'll go ahead and call to order. Please read the roll call.
Marcia Carrington. Here. Robin Lloyd. Here. Chris Parthamore.
Here.
Adam Ramsdell.
Here.
Brian Stanley.
Here.
Cable Steineman called me in. He's excused. Jordan Steinberg called in as well. Martha Weichel.
Here.
Sean Daly. Then would you like me to call the ex officio mayors or members as well?
Yes.
Blake Harris. Michelle Newell. And Aaron Blair.
Here.
Great. We'll move to minutes. Everyone should have received the minutes via email. Are there any motions?
Motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion
One second.
and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Hi.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. We'll move on to current business, a draft plan of the 2022 public art work plan. Aaron?
All right, so let me move to the podium here. Okay. Kathy, do you know how to make them be able to see this? Because I'm not seeing.
Okay.
Let me see if I do my display settings. I tested it on here, but then I didn't. Did she tell you it was in here? Is that normal?
No, she did not tell me, but I know this is working.
Yeah. I want them
And
to
then
see
you
it.
put it in here, your little video thing.
Oh, I've got it up.
Okay. Oh, she had me have you put it in here.
Does that have a USB?
I thought that's what she said. Maybe it is in there. She said, if a video, press side by side, and that's where we're at. So the video should be playing where the city of Sandusky is.
So that is happening. The video is playing side by side, but my screen is not showing on there, and I've never had
Oh,
that happen before. Anybody's upstairs. Do you want to step out and give her a call, and I can start talking through it? Okay. So what I've got today is I have a PowerPoint with a bunch of pictures of electrical boxes, because I do think that we could do that project if we want. I'm not 100% confident, but I talked about it with a couple people internally, so we can talk about that. But I have a spreadsheet that I wanted to workshop with y'all because I have budget numbers, and I figured we could just play with the budget numbers, and once we come up with our list, it shows like how much we've got and how much those things might cost, and we can kind of like iterate that. And I have it in an Excel spreadsheet, so it's just live and we can play with it as long as I can get it on the screen and y'all can see it.
So it sounds like we should take a time out for IT.
Right. So Kathy's going to give Kelly a call and see if she can get a little troubleshooting on that, because I don't see that this laptop is not finding a second display. That's how I know how to do it, is like right click on the laptop. And so I don't know how it interfaces with all of this. If y'all have any ideas, I'm open, or we can just wait.
Kelly just passed me as I was walking in. Just from the small city.
She'll find her. So I can give you an update. One of the pieces of homework you asked me to look into was about a vinyl mural program. That was something that we talked about last time. So I called the Short North Association, the Short North Alliance in Columbus, because that was the program I was familiar with. And I talked to Caitlin Dunn, who runs that program, and she gave me an overview. So they do their temporary murals program they do on their historic brick. So if they have any new buildings, or buildings that aren't historic, they encourage real paint on those. But they do have the vinyl mural program, and they've been running it for 3 years. So the way that they went about it is they identified all the possible locations. So everywhere that could potentially be a location for the vinyl mural, and then they were looking at like high transit areas, so like lots of car traffic or pedestrian traffic, and then they identified those. What they have is the galleries, so they actually have each of their galleries submit a piece, and that's how they decide what art goes on them, and then they take the potential piece to the building owner and say, hey, is this okay to put up on your building? She said a couple times they've had people say, yeah, no, we don't want that on our building, and they've had to go back to the gallery and say, please pick a different piece. So that would be different in our case. We'd have to come up with some sort of like application selection process if we did run a program like that. She said that the pricing, it depends on the size and how high up they are. So if you have them about at eye level, and she said like about like 10 foot by 10 foot, they're about $1,500 a piece. And she's talking about Orange Barrel Media, that's who does theirs. They do not travel to Sandusky. I also talked to them, so just a preview. But that doesn't mean we can't get this program. It just keep that in mind. She said if you want them to hang it up higher, you have to add another $1,500. Or she said for budget number, it just the higher it goes, the more expensive it'll be because they have to apply it. It's a heat application, and they leave them up for 2 years, but she said they've had pieces that have lasted a lot longer than that. Oh, look, we have it. Yay, thanks, Debbie. And so disregard that for now. We'll just keep talking about I'll keep telling you about this. What else did I learn? They've never seen it do any damage to the building. The company told them, it's totally safe for historic buildings. They've had success with removing spray paint from them. She said the only time they see them fail is if people pick at them. And the company that they go through actually can replace pieces of them instead of replacing the whole entire thing. We're talking about vinyl murals. I can't remember when you came in. What else? They always organize them around a theme. It's really broad, but it gives them something to do a call out for artists, like around the world or unconventional. Those were 2 themes that they used. So super broad, but give them something, which I think there was a theme. Was there a theme about the City Hall Gallery when y'all did the call for artists?
Yeah, I think it was Metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis, right. Yeah. So it's just good to have a theme. So the owners approve what is placed on their buildings. She said that we definitely, if we did something like this, we'd want to go through the, Historic Commission if we had one, which I said, yeah, that was totally on our radar, that the Historic Commission probably just want to be sure that there wouldn't be any damage to the buildings, and if anything happens that you'd fix it. So that's the biggest thing I learned from her. I called Orange Barrel, like I mentioned, they don't service our area, but I did call a company that I've worked with previously. We have a list of sign companies that we've worked with in the past that are like registered sign companies that the city works with. And I called one that I worked with really recently that was a Toledo sign company, did the Talon Flora Park signage. I worked with them to install that. And that was a bronze sign, so totally different. But I was just like, I know this guy, I'm gonna call him. Sure. And they do vinyl installations on buildings. They had one in Toledo that was the entire building. He showed me an example. We were walking around on Google Earth, and he said he'd get back to me with some potential pricing. So we can at least use those for a budget number. That's good. And then if we did, I think that if we put that in the work plan, when we go to undertake that process is kind of when we would think, all right, how many probably go in the budget, but where might they go? And then we could do a bidding process to get quotes from companies that do this to make sure that we have that kind of an open bidding process, so companies get a chance to say they want to do that. So I think it's a doable program. It seems like I didn't run into a ton of barriers. Toledo Sign Company didn't say, like, he wasn't like, oh, I guarantee nothing will happen to the historic building. So I don't know if there's anything that we would want to see, what comfort level we'd have with being sure that they wouldn't damage anything, but it's the same kind of application as the Short North ones are using, is that vinyl, so.
I'm sure once we start to look at various companies, if we choose to go that route, we would get into the fine print, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Make sure that the building owner is protected, we would convey that as well.
yeah. And I thought it was cool that they've done this. They had, he had a couple, so if we do pursue it, I have it upstairs. I don't have it right here, I don't think. The addresses of the places, so if anybody spends time in Toledo and you want to go see what it looks like before we made any commitment to actually run that kind of program. So that is one of the pieces of homework that you had asked me to do.
I have a question. It might be worth even calling Laura's Printing, because I know this could be a totally different process because they're putting them on cars, but they cover cars with imagery and it's heat sealed. Mm-hmm. It might be a similar thing.
Yeah, it might be.
You know?
Okay. I wrote that down. Okay, so what I have in this kind of draft work plan is I like to start with an outline, so I don't have like the multiple pages with descriptions and pictures. I figure once we set what that outline's going to look like, then I'll draft you that document and send it to you to, read and review before we finalize it. Probably use the template that has been used in the past unless you have any big changes you want to see. But today I thought we would talk just specifically like what are we going to do? So what I have here in the spreadsheet is our current fund balance is $83,000. If we take away what we said we were going to hold back from 2021 for Columbus Avenue, that's minus $50,000. Also, we said in 2021 that we would do an artist-led grant allocation that did not get spent. So if you want to keep holding that back because we said we would, we could. And if you do that, then you get $23,000. If you add in the expected funds, which is $40,000, I checked in with Michelle and got an up-to-date number on that. She said it could be 45 by the end of the year. We'll probably get another one more payment. So we very safely, like confidently, we can budget that we're going to get 40,000 more. That gives us a net expected of 63,000. There was no expiration for this $10,000, this artist-led grant allocation. So we could say that's no longer available, delete that line item, and get 10 grand back in our budget to play with, depending on what y'all think. I mean, it's November, mid-November, nobody's applied for it. We could say, we gotta wait till next year. So keep that in mind. And then what I have below here is the potential projects. So we said we would budget $200 for City Hall Gallery, and I just threw in some budget numbers, and you'll see how this works here. I'll give you a little walkthrough. So if we, all of a sudden say, let's like 100,000 for City Hall Gallery, then you can see that it live updates. So 200 for City Hall Gallery. I put in just for a budget number of 50,000 for Columbus Avenue to hold like an additional 50,000. Electric boxes, final mural program, and then the other thing we had talked about, and this is what I had in my notes, is the potential to purchase a Lang Truss sculpture. So just without focusing on the numbers right now, this is kind of the draft list of things that I had written down to put in here. And then I also have, but wait, there's more. Okay, the vinyl mural program, I made some assumptions. Let's say we pay $1,500 for each of them, and we say we want to do 4 of them. We could say, well, wait, let's do 6 of them. Well, let's do 3 of them. So that's how I worked that. I put in $1,500 for maintenance, assuming that we have enough money left over to replace an entire one that got damaged, or clean 3 of them that got damaged, or patch, just trying to make sure that we have some money for maintenance, because that came up in the last conversation. The electrical boxes, I did some research on that, and we can talk about that. I have penciled in $500 each. There's a program in Boston they call Powerbox, and they give artists $200 up front for supplies, and then they give them $300 at completion of the project, so $500 each, and which I thought was a reasonable number to start with. And then assuming how many we would do, and I get a little more information about that too. And then the Lang Truss sculpture, The pulse sculpture that was purchased this year by Firelands Health was $5,000. Those sculptures tend to range between 5 and 10. So I figured what I would do is put in the top, you know, like this is operating, I budgeted more money than we have, so we're gonna have to make some decisions, but I figured I'd throw that in there. I did talk to Public Works, and Aaron Klein, the director, was comfortable with us having $1,000 reserved for maintenance, and that's for any sort of like the structure of it needs repaired, if it's on concrete and it gets chipped, or if it got spray painted, it needs cleaned. And if we didn't spend that, we could just carry it over to have about $1,000 in our budget for maintenance. And he said, if we get to like having 5 or 6 sculptures, then maybe we want a couple thousand, but for now, he was totally fine with that number. Okay, so I do have info on electrical boxes, but questions on the spreadsheet? Do you want to pause and talk here, or do you want me to show you the info I have on electrical boxes before we talk?
You have the floor.
Okay. Let me get out of this and do one more thing, because I want to show you that too. So I went to to Shoreline Drive, and I took pictures, and I found, there it is. I found a bunch, like a lot. It's interesting, I also found a couple blog articles that are like, don't paint these, you're just drawing attention to them. They're supposed to fade into the background. So there's definitely differing opinions, but there are, top left, there's 2 of those exact boxes, one on each side of Jackson Street Pier. Top center, there's 6 of those exact boxes, and they're on either right by the pathway, like on the north side by the water, or close to the buildings. There's a couple of these smaller green ones on the top right. There's 4 of these like narrow black ones. There's 3 kind of really old-looking green ones along the backs of a lot of the restaurants and businesses there along Shoreline. And then there's those 3 smaller pictures are like the one big gray one that looks like a bank of lockers. There's a couple little green things. And then there's like some lovely clusters that include multiple different types of boxes. So there's like a bunch out there. And if we pay $500 for artists to paint each of those, it could be a lot. So, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I did a little mapping for you to see where they are. If you look at the 2 kind of big green ones, and then 3 of, these are like all pretty new, the 3 that are very just rectangular, all along Shoreline Drive, there's kind of 5, and they're all spaced out, and they're about the same. What I was thinking is if we throw artists at this, they might want to ask each other questions like, how'd you plan it, how'd you design it? If we do a whole bunch of different shapes and sizes, it might be, I don't know, I thought that it might make some sense to kind of pick the 5 easiest ones to paint, or the 5 that are along Shoreline Drive. So that's one example of those kind of big ones. If you look at the other kinds, so like there's the newer green ones that are on the business side. So these are the ones that are all along the business side. So there's the newer kinds, there's medium, there's older green ones. There's like the kind of top middle there is like the, spaghetti cluster of a bunch of them all together. They're a little bit more cluttered. There's a lot going on visually, just as a pedestrian, like a lot going on visually as you walk along that roadway. And to me, I felt like it might be more elegant to focus on the ones that are along the north side, because as you're riding your bike or walking, like there were like 5 instances, and maybe we make them like bay themed or something, whereas this could potentially just add even more visual clutter to like what's going on there. I don't know. I don't know. So those are the ones along on the south side of Shoreline. And then what's the third one? Oh, these are those like the kind of random ones, the 4 black ones, and then there's that one big gray one, and then the 2 little green ones. What I haven't done, I have not gone to the Director of Public Works and gotten his thoughts on like which ones would be better or not. I'd rather have some consensus here of like what to pitch and be like, here's what we want to do, like help us understand. So the reason I budgeted 5 is because I was thinking these 5 along the Sandusky Bay pathway closer to the water looked more like blank canvases that are kind of out on display. If I was gonna paint one, I wanna paint one of those ones. So that's how I got to 5.
The other one seems like it can be camouflaged easier than maybe painted. These stand out a little bit more for,
Yeah, thoughts?
Yeah.
This, I disagree.
Yeah.
Very much so, because these boxes that are here, these are the newer ones
Mhm.
that look decent.
Yeah.
So I think if we're trying to like beautify things, that we go after the old ones that look like they're rusting out and falling apart, and believe it or not, putting a good coat of paint with a really, really, nice sealant on there, it's actually probably gonna preserve them a little bit better as well. Look at this.
Yeah, there's some that are looking rough, yeah.
They're looking rough, so.
yeah, good point.
So, and I know the smaller black ones were just installed,
Mhm.
and literally last summer was the first time they were even used. So, I can see them not wanting those ones done, but I think that we would have an easier time coming into it with the really ugly, nasty ones, because the north side of Shoreline Drive is beautiful right now. I mean, you have the bay, you have everything, the new pathway. It's actually the south side of the street that is gonna need a little work. So, and that is the older boxes that are rusted out, and I mean, look at this one, this one's behind Landmark.
Are these where all the deliveries are made?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, deliveries are made on Water Street and Shoreline Drive, depending on how the businesses are set up. So you have literally some businesses go all the way through the building, and some are back and front.
I'm just thinking an artist might not want their artwork covered. Right.
Historically, Shoreline Drive was the back of house, which is why you get pictures like that kind of top center where everything's just kind of thrown back there, because people weren't thinking about it back in the day. Water Street was the front door, where now what we're seeing is Shoreline Drive kind of transform more into another front door. So the Water Street properties really have to do double duty and have kind of two public, well, there's a lot of desire to have two public, fronts, which is why we see the patios going on along Shoreline Drive and things like that. So
Would they clean that up, or we would clean that up for the artist, before the artist would?
So I found one really interesting post. There was a woman that had like step-by-step instructions about how she did hers, and I thought that it would be cool if we do this program, I'll share it with you, to include something like that, or even like a link to her story. So she went in, she brushed it, cleaned it, prepped it with primer, painted it, and then the city actually required that she seal it with like an anti-graffiti coating at the end, which I think is a good idea, so it would clean up. It was probably like a really hard acrylic clear coat. And she also showed a little bit about how she designed the template. She had put like her 2D art, and then she had it like in Photoshop wrapped around so she could start to visualize how it would look on multiple surfaces. And the city specified spots where they're not allowed to paint. Like, imagine there's the caution thing, big white and orange caution sign. They're not going to be allowed to paint that, I'm sure that we would have to get really detailed on what they were and were not allowed to paint if we had a program like this.
Aaron, how many total boxes did you identify? Was it 9?
So you go back to this one, there's like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's like 13 really new ones. And then there's 3, that bottom, one click in on the bottom, there's 3 that look pretty much just like that. And then there's a couple that are taller. So like the green ones that are like squat and old, and then the green ones that are a little bit taller. There's a couple of those. So there might be 5 of those like really old, big green ones, if that's the preference. Like avoiding the new ones. I think Rob makes a really good point about Shoreline art, like the north side already being beautiful. And
well, the other thing too is the businesses like that one and the one picture that you have, the 4th picture in, was actually right next to the back of Tony's, and they just spent all that money to make that look phenomenal, because the business they are putting money into the back sides of the building, and that was next to the Tony's new dugout bar, which, being on Shoreline Drive, was one of the busiest places this past summer. Like, it was packed, you
Right.
couldn't even walk on there, and there's this giant eyesore of an electrical box right next to what he just spent so much money putting into. So,
It's interesting, when I walk down there, I never notice all of these going along Shoreline Drive. Like, obviously, no, because we talked about it at the brainstorm.
If we want to do
Like, I can't stop looking at them. I'm like, I've never looked at them.
if we want to do a larger chunk of these, why don't we ask one of the foundations to match the funds that we put in?
Yeah, I mean, that's,
It's end
a
of the
vision
year,
is
and
a vision.
I'm sure there's some foundations that aren't quite at their 4% that they have to give.
We could always, if we,
And this
for
is
sure we want to do it, we come up with like, what's our budget number going to look like? And then the last year's work plan did have like funding by us and others sort of language. So we could, that's an option.
It just seems like we could get some buy-in from some other people, and in the grand scheme, it's a small amount of money to make a big impact along the shoreline.
yeah, considering that they're just $500 to do.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Robin. It's definitely I'm on board with the beautification part first, and then maybe we can spread to the other side if funds allow, or out in the neighborhoods, because I'm sure there's, in some of these transitional neighborhoods, there's more boxes and more obstructions that we could look to build out into the various neighborhoods as well. For such a small cost, it'd be nice to spread it around too, so.
Do you all think it should be us? So Brian, to your comment, I was thinking, okay, well, I could come up with like a hierarchy of like, we want these dozen to go first and then these and then these.
Prioritizing.
Would you rather the artist choose and say, like, do you want to try to do something broader? Like we have a citywide program and you can pick the one you want to paint and then you just have to get approval. You come to us, get approval, and then we'll let you go. Like,
Yeah, I mean-
thoughts on that? I mean, I still have to take all of this internally and
I'd like to,
circulate it, but
I think we should.
I think we should too.
like to hear what everybody else has to say, but it'd be nice to at least get started with some of the back of the house and kind of work our way from there.
yeah.
Do you think we should ask the businesses input that these are in front of?
I think that's a good idea. I do think like picking them and saying there's a high impact area where we know a ton of people are going to come. I mean, we're looking at hopefully, if we can, 13 Party at the Pier Thursdays next year, which could get 1,000 or more people. That's 20,000, 40,000 people are going to be down there next year, depending for various events, right? Maybe more than that. I don't know how many Ironmen are going to bring. Like so many people. So if we concentrate on this area, we pick how many. There's logic to keeping them kind of concentrated and walkable.
Yeah, I agree with keeping it downtown. And then, so many times you do hear a lot about, oh, they're spending so much money downtown. But what a lot of people fail to realize is that a city is like a human body, and it has a heart to it. And through the heart, it pumps the blood throughout the entire city. I seriously think that the way the city has focused a little bit downtown, and now it's starting to leak out into the communities like it should. I believe, like even with this project, we start right here, but we definitely take this project because it's on a lower end and push it outward after we do the boxes down on the back end. Really make a focus, just because they're only $500 in there, it's going to make a huge impact for very low cost.
I'll look at my photos real quick. I want to know the exact number. I'm sorry, Kathy. I put the typology on the slide. I took 20 photos, and one of them has 2, so there's like 22 total along Shoreline, just on Shoreline Drive. And the ones that are old and green, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 that are like that really light green, like it's been a long time since they saw any paint. And then there's a couple that are like shorter. I couldn't tell if they were plastic. I figured, so maybe it's the kind of like washed out green ones that we start with. What do y'all think about that?
Yeah.
Just for our budget number?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's,
Yeah.
We're
One,
small.
two,
My
three.
thing too is you have some that are extremely large and you have some that are extremely small. Are the small ones gonna be the same price as the large ones?
That's a good question.
Or are we gonna be able to adjust that?
So the 4 I'm looking at are, they're about like that bottom that has the 3 under it. So it's basically, there's 3 of those same kind, and then the picture to the right that has the big green one on there, there's 1 of those. So that's 4 of like the green ones that are about, this big.
Aaron, when we start talking about 4 of these, it just seems like barely a dent, and I really like what Chris brought to the table with the foundations. If we could budget for, I don't know, 8 of them, that would be half the ones against the shoreline, and then perhaps get matching funds. I mean, that would take care of almost all of them on the south side of shoreline, correct? I don't know, I'm just throwing out more ideas.
I agree with that.
So I have 9 locations. I was counting this as like 1, and I wonder if we would even, if this was like, say we want to budget for 9, because we want to do all the ones along the south side of the street. There could be, I would argue that having one artist do all of those would be valuable if we are allowed to paint all 3 of those. And I'm sorry, you can't see my cursor. On the top middle, the one that has like the blue electric box and then the short dark green one and then the tall light green one, if we had 3 different artists, that could be like pretty conflicting depending on what their art looks like. So maybe that's one location, like we could do like these 9 locations. Some of those are brand new though, like the bottom right, one in from the bottom right is one of the brand new ones.
I was gonna say, a couple of these out here, are they the brand new small black ones? Because the black ones are on this side.
Oh, right. No, I put those on 2 maps. You're right. So there's 4 of the brand new small black ones on.
Because I wouldn't even worry about those. Those look amazing.
Yeah, so that doesn't count those 4. So these 9 locations are what you see on the screen. If we take away the brand new ones from this, I think there's 1. So the one just that I was just talking about, let's like 1 in from the bottom right. That one is one of the brand new ones.
So that'll bring us to 8.
And then the other one, the bottom right, all the way to the right, is a brand new one too. Actually, those 3 look like it.
So what if we budgeted for the 9, then we were able to put that into the budget? We could, as the 2022 year starts, we could gauge interest from the owners or from the adjacent building owners, and then see where that leaves us if we're still at 9. From there, once we have a final number, maybe we can then go out to the foundations.
Are we at 9 or are we at 6 if we don't count the 3 new ones?
Are we at 6?
We should be at 6.
Yeah, if we don't count the 3 brand new ones that are the same, the bottom 3 on the right are all the same, all the new ones.
Even I wouldn't want to see those black ones done. I'd rather see the other bigger green ones done. Because those black
Yeah, the black ones kind of blend in nice, I
Yeah,
think.
they're really nice looking and they're new. So I wouldn't even worry about spending funds on those.
I think for the work plan, for the budget purposes, I'm on board with 6. I don't know how everybody else feels.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Me too.
Hearing some consensus, I'll hop us out of this then. If we go back to our sheet and we say we're gonna do 6 of those, that brings us to 3,000 for that budget. And then the Lang Trust sculpture, is that something, let's pause there for a minute. Do you want to budget 10,000 for that this year? Do you want to budget less and say we have to, what a next step could be is to look at what the prices are on all of them around. I did not do that. But I could ask Sarah Prout for that information. She might have it. And then make that call after I talk with her.
I think it was it, I think Cable maybe said it last meeting. Like, are we set where we have to, I think he was the one saying, like, what if there isn't one that like we like, like that we want to purchase? Is it like something where we have to do, like, since it's in the budget, we'd have to do that? Or it can just go on, it doesn't, like, if everybody doesn't, there's not one that we really, care to purchase or whatever. I think Cable was
I mean, this commission's not writing ordinances, there's nothing we'd be obligated to do. Certainly if we put it in our work plan
At
and we
least you have
don't
it
do
planned
it, we
for
could
it.
get
Right.
questions of like, why are you all promising to do things that you didn't do? I thought you were gonna do this thing that you said you would do. I think that if we put it in the budget, well, I would caution against putting it in the budget unless we want to take it on next year and we think that one of these would be good to buy. I mean, there's a couple that I think are great. And
I do, I
I'd love
agree
to
too.
buy
I
them.
just was curious, because I know he brought that up last meeting, and I don't remember what you had said about it.
Yeah, he said he wasn't confident that there would be one every year that we
Yeah.
did. He didn't-
Right, like-
He wasn't confident, he wanted to convince, to say we should buy one every year for the next 5 years or something, because you don't know what you're gonna get. So I would, if we do this one, if we have an intention to do this one, we talked about like having some sort of public participation in getting comments so we know what the public favorite is, and then talking it within the committee and then picking one, which I imagine we would kind of run some sort of program like July, August, maybe at the end of season, maybe September, and then be deciding next year what one to purchase.
Okay.
If, I don't
Yeah,
know
that
what y'all
could get a little sticky too, because if, everybody likes the one that's
We
$22,000.
don't pick that one.
Yeah.
Right.
Then what?
I
Yeah.
know there's a lot of buzz about the one that's on Wayne, right there at the corner from Masonic Temple. I don't remember the name.
Oh, the Madam Butterfly one?
Yes.
Love
There's
that
a
one.
lot. I've
That
seen
one you walk-
I've seen Facebook posts about it, I've
Yeah.
seen all kinds of stuff, and it's probably one of the more expensive ones.
I didn't even see the price on it. It's in a really approachable location too. Like, my favorite one is the yellow one that looks like a dinosaur, but
I like
I
that
never
one too.
walk on Monroe,
Right, I know.
so I haven't selfied in front of that one, but I did selfie in front of the Madam Butterfly one. It's right,
You
it's so
did,
easy.
too. You
It was
did.
so easy. I did, it's right there.
Thoughts on the sculpture program?
I say we figure out how much some of these are before we take any steps further with that, because if we did do something like that, it would be nice to give it to the public, but if we give it to the public and, like you said, they want like a $22,000 sculpture, then you can't do that.
My memory of what Sarah had told me is that they were all between 5 and 10, but I could be wrong. That could be inaccurate.
So if that's the case, then that would be okay,
Maybe we could
be
pick
budgeted for
the
10.
top three.
Have them pick the top 3?
In that
And then like we
price
chose,
range,
we
that way
chose
the
it.
public couldn't go over. And if they asked, then just say, sorry, this is.
Yeah, we could
This is
choose,
the
we could,
budget.
the committee could choose, the commission could choose, the top 3. And then we would know that they were in like our
Oh,
budget.
there you go.
And then the public could choose out of those.
They choose which one?
So then they're still part of it, but yet so are we. Like we can still control
I think that.
how much is
okay.
spent.
Are we comfortable with leaving it here for the budget number, for the 10,000? Okay.
I think so.
And then the vinyl mural program, I just threw in 3. I wasn't sure like how many we would try to do, if we try to do that, what kind of budget you would want to do. Is 3 an impactful number of those to install? Is it worth doing?
More than we have now.
Yeah?
Right, it's 300% more.
Right, and that's the thing, we've sat, some of us have been on this commission for a couple of years now, and I feel like there's nothing permanent to show for sitting on this commission for a couple of years, so I'd like to see something happening, something that's going to make an impact. Which I'm really excited about this. With the 1,500, do you have size
That was
restrictions?
just-
Is that something small, is that larger scale?
That's a very rough estimate for like a 10 by 10 or an
Okay.
8 by 12 kind of
Okay.
size, so.
So the folks you talked to in Columbus mentioned a higher install price, at least on
If
where
they're
you're
higher.
at.
Yeah.
We may want to consider taking that into account for this. I feel like 1,500 is probably light for each one.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'd almost, if we're still dealing with a total of 6,000, I'd almost put 2 of them at 3,000 and see where that takes us, until we're able to get some numbers to put to it.
I was gonna say it's about 2,000 to just wrap a card. I happened to be looking yesterday because my son wants his card wrapped. So to do the vinyl wrapping, like you were saying with Loris, that bottom base is $2,000. So yeah, but with that, with it being a higher number, I think that if we want to up hire, I seriously think that we can reach out to some of the construction companies to donate booms or, you know, something like that. And I think that our local companies would 100% be willing to do that, especially for the city. And if you just give them a little bit of credit for just donating that, that way you can get them higher up there.
Are you talking about like a truck rental donation?
So, yeah, like just running their boats and stuff like that. When I do hire murals and stuff, I literally, it's just me and a boom. And just scale up there and get
I
it
wonder
out
if the
there.
company would own the truck that they use to install. They might and want to use their own equipment. I don't.
For liability purposes
Yeah,
usually.
for liability and stuff. So I don't know about that, because I definitely would want the company to be able, that has
Yeah.
done this before, to do it.
But I would check into that, because if they don't own that equipment, if that's based off of rental of that equipment, then I think, you know, and some of our local construction companies are absolutely amazing. So, and
Yeah.
they'd be willing to work with us.
Well, we certainly would be in a negotiation, you know, we would be able to put out a call for companies and select the company based on, you know, and be in a conversation there. So we just need like the kind of, what's the budget number? I think, I agree that putting it higher is a lot safer. So if we put it at 3,000, that covers us, and maybe we could do 4 or 5 or whatever, you know. What do y'all think about like 2 at 3,000? Do you want to keep the budget lower? I mean, basically we've got, hold on, let me go back to our, so if I keep it, I've got 3,000 for that at 2 murals. We've got 6 electrical boxes at 500. We've got 1 Link Truck sculpture at 10,000 plus the maintenance. We're at 71.7, so we're like we're about 9,000 over budget. So we could choose to take, so this, I just threw this in there, the Columbus Avenue allocation for 50,000. That's really like the biggest pot of money that we have to play with. Like we could say we only want to give it 25, and then all of a sudden, you know, that's a big difference. So I don't know, what do y'all think about? We have 50 now. What do you think is reasonable to add to that for next year? Depending on the impact.
Is there a previous number for what was 2021 or 2019's Columbus Avenue allocation?
So it started last year. So last
50 from
year,
last year.
It was 50 from last year, okay.
it was 50,000. So we have that, yeah.
And did we use all of it?
No, it's being like held back like a savings account.
Okay.
So we have 50 already held back. And we talked about last time, you know, it seemed like there was pretty strong interest in having something really impactful and being able to contribute to that process, that it's not necessarily going to come up during the design process of the roadway, the streetscape. There could be, I mean, there definitely, like, y'all are going to be in the conversation for that. I'm the project manager on that. We wanted public art as a focus on that process, and that'll be launching hopefully soon. But what I was assuming is that process would start to lead towards what kind of art would be part of it, and then you would want to put out a call for artists and then choose the art, install the art after it's constructed. So we're looking at like 2024, 2025. And if you have a couple $100,000 at that point, then you can get like a seriously big piece of art,
Substantial, sure.
right? Something substantial, or a series of multiple things. And so it's just like, not that you can't do something significant for 50,000. So that's like the biggest trade-off, is what to save for the future and what to spend now.
Even when it comes to the Columbus Avenue project, like, I would be fine, like, allocating $20,000 this year to the Columbus Avenue project, and then pushing forward with the boxes, the vinyl murals. That way it
We can
shows
see
that
it,
we're making an
right.
impact.
You can see it
Because, I
sooner.
mean, and $70,000, you know, that's $70,000 that we've already put toward the Columbus Avenue, and then we'll continue to do so, put more for the next couple of years. But I think that this year, like, knocking that down to $20,000, and then just moving forward with more of an impact from the Arts Commission finally after all these years is the better way to go.
I think that, I agree.
I agree.
I would agree.
I know we've been working, but it's hard not seeing, like, you know, I know we did the bus stops and stuff. but
It's trying after a
I
little
know.
while.
Yeah.
It's like when you said 2024 or 25, it's like, oh my gosh, it seems so far away.
Yeah, so, and that's
Like,
plenty of
let's do
time
some
for
stuff
us to
now.
reallocate, like, more funds, but I think for this coming year, we need to do something. I would
Yeah.
drop Columbus Avenue to $20,000 and push forward on saying,
Pitch for
hey,
it
we're an
tomorrow.
arts commission and we're here. Because, to be honest with you, who really knows that we're here?
They don't.
We are
Yeah.
based on admissions taxes as well, and if we have a more normal season next year, then we'll get a larger budget number next year for '23.
So Aaron, you mentioned the grant, the 10,000 grant.
Yes,
We
that
can
was not
essentially
spent,
we can essentially roll that into
like a 2022 grant.
2022, which would probably cover our shortfall. We could still keep the 50
Oh, I see what you're saying.
and have some left over.
So
And-
basically, let's say 2021 is over for this purpose. So we have 10. And it is over. We don't need to hold it from last year anymore. That. So now with those numbers of boxes and murals and
Yeah.
20,000 in Columbus Avenue, we've got 20,000 more to allocate. And we could delete this off too if you don't want to have an artist-led grant program. Well, I do kind of love keeping that personally, even though no one took advantage of it this year.
I'd like to keep that, just in case somebody actually wants to get on a building that's not historical and do a mural that's going to last for years and years. Because unfortunately, these vinyl murals, they don't last, but they are impactful for the time that they're up there. And the higher up we can get these vinyl murals, the longer they're gonna last.
When I talked to Toledo Sign, the one that he showed me was the entire side of a building. I wish I had the address on me. He said they'll last 10 years.
Awesome. So I know when I was down to Short North last time, I forget where it was, but I was standing there and I was like really examining this because I knew we had talked about it prior to. And then it's so close, and you can just see people just ripped sections off. I mean,
Yeah, that's what she said, when
just
people
gone.
peel them.
If they can touch them, they're just gone, which
Right.
is exactly what they did to the bus stops. You
Peel
know,
'em.
with the vinyl
Yeah, it's
that
like
was
your-
there,
you
they
know.
seen them, so they could reach them, so they just ripped down, what we had allocated to the bus stops. So I'm all for putting more money into the murals and everything, just making sure that they're up high enough.
Yeah.
That if we're gonna make this investment, it's an investment that lasts.
So it seemed like we felt pretty good about 6 electrical boxes. How do y'all feel about 2 murals? Do you want to up that?
So we have two of the vinyl, and then the artist-led grant could actually serve as a third, right?
As a mural. Good.
Yeah,
If
it
there's an artist
just depends
like
on what you
Grant,
get a
it could
pitch
be-
for.
Who knows?
What do you think about trying to do like 4 or 5 of the vinyl murals instead of
I
only
think that
2?
would be fantastic.
I feel like we shouldn't shut the door on the Columbus Ave. I
Yeah.
hate to get down the road and say, oh, I wish we would have put 50 in every year.
I'm with you. I'm curious, I put this in here so we could play with it. What if we did 5 of these? I just want to see where that comes back to. If we did 5 murals, we'd
was
still
the-
have 30 we could put towards Columbus Ave.
That's when you walked in, I think.
So this is City Hall Gallery, 30,000 for Columbus Ave, 3,000 for electrical boxes, 16,500 for vinyl murals. That'd be 5 vinyl murals, 11,000 for Lang Trust sculpture, and 10,000 for an artist-led grant. And we probably even have 5 more thousand to budget with.
Now, with the murals and stuff like that, if we get one that's like, we could do the whole, not saying it's a site, but say we do the whole side of a fight building. And I mean, that could be the cost, the whole cost there. Will it have to be like 5 murals that we do, or can we allocate it to like giant ones?
Oh, I hear you.
Because if you're saying that it's 3,000, estimated, and they give you like 8 by 12, but what if we need like a 20 by 30 foot mural? Like to really say something, to really do something. You know what I mean? Like, Do we have to stick to the number?
I think that's a good discussion. So what I had based this off of was our conversation last time when we were talking about implementing a program where we put out a call for artists. There were 5 locations. We were going to select 5 winning pieces of art to put up, or a number. We were going to put up a number. Here's the locations, and try to put them around town to have multiple. And that the Short North ones are at some measure from like 8 to 30 to like 10 to 12. It depends on the art.
Yeah. Those ones that they have down there that are like 30 foot, those are like the impactful ones.
Right.
So, I mean, just in my opinion, I would take whatever we have left over. If these are the couple routes that we're gonna go, I would put it into the vinyl mural program to make the biggest impact, to show that we are here for the rest of this year. And the only thing that I don't like is they have the actual number on there. I don't know if you need to have a number.
You could put a range or something, and then make it a quality over quantity situation.
Yeah,
Okay.
we seen a piece that was just absolutely amazing, and we had a spot to do it 30 foot tall. Like, are we gonna be like, oh, sorry.
So maybe it's like,
So
we
it's-
want to what if it's like 5,000 each for up to 5, or 4,000 each for up to 5, or something? I was trying to get
It's
it
all
close
about
to 20 grand.
administration, right? It's like, how do you,
Yeah,
how do we reach forward to artists and say we're gonna do 5 and then only do 1? kind of
Yeah,
thing.
that's the thing. It's like, well, we can design the program when it's time to design the program, like once we get the work plan set. So I'm hearing like a desire for flexibility in size, and we're gonna have to select buildings, so that's gonna make sense. The size is gonna make sense. You don't want to put up a 8 by 8, 50 feet in the air, because then it's gonna look like nothing. So there's an up to number, so that I just upped it to like 20,000 on purpose to see where we get to. So now we're like about 3,000 over budget right now.
I think we need to trim that back, because I'd much rather have leftover money at the end of the year that we can roll into Columbus Ave, because we're cutting it short this year.
So what do you think about like
I don't know, anybody else?
I was
thoughts?
gonna say, what's the rest of the commission think? Would you rather see more money into the mural program or tuck back away for Columbus Avenue?
Well, I like the idea of the mural program personally, but maybe we don't have to do as many, but I like large impact.
Right, and we
I agree.
want to reduce it.
I think Robin's right about the impact on the size of the murals, and I also think we should hold more back for Columbus. I think those 2 in the electric boxes are by far the most important things here.
Agreed.
If
Agreed.
anything, we can take the money away and say we're not gonna purchase a Lane Trust sculpture this year.
I was thinking that too. Because I agree, like, I think we need to do something, but I agree with Brian. You hate to, like, down the road think, oh man, we should have kept more. But I also want to see, I like the mural program. I actually like that program honestly better. Like, if we had to choose first, I'd rather see the murals go up before the electrical boxes.
Me too. Murals came up, and if you remember the chart that I made in our brainstorming, murals were huge. Like we
Yeah.
talked about, everybody wrote them down, everybody talked about it.
I'm just remembering how impactful the drone footage I see online all the time happening, and from the aerial view, what that would look like.
Yeah.
Showcasing the city, as well as, it's too bad that we couldn't build in some way within the mural for people to know who we are as a commission.
I mean, there could be a sponsored by the Arts Commission sort of something, at least in the Short North program, they do have a plaque where you can read about
Right.
the artist and the mural,
But I
but
do know you can build in code into it, that way if you point your camera at the mural, it shows up our website.
interesting.
You don't even have to put letters.
Yeah.
It just automatically goes. So you can take the photo and learn about who we
Here's
are.
your interactive. We're talking about that last time. Okay, so thoughts on taking out the Lang Trust sculpture purchase then? Say, we've got one this year, we'll skip next year and then talk about it for 23 maybe. I mean, the nice thing about that program is that we have sculptures all over downtown, so,
And it's gonna they're gonna keep coming back.
Right.
Yeah.
Always going to be more sculptures.
Yeah.
And like she said, there'd be more money next year allocating when things get kicked back in, emission taxes and stuff.
Yes.
in 3 years, in 3 years of having those sculptures, I've liked tons of them.
Yeah.
I would be willing to purchase maybe one.
Yeah.
It's nice that they're always rotating.
Like
Yeah,
just.
I love the
Yeah, I like it
rotation
too.
part of it.
Yeah, I like the rotating and like, I think if you're gonna purchase one, you wait for the really, really popular one that people
Yeah, I don't think we should be obligated.
really
to
wanna
do it.
have.
It's true, waiting for the right one, not necessarily to actually decide to pull the trigger on something before you even know if it's fitting or not.
Right.
Okay,
It's a
so if
wise
we
decision.
take that out, let's just say we're gonna go 0, 0. Basically, take that out. Then we have, I've got in here right now, 30,000 for Columbus Ave, 20,000, 21.5 for the vinyl mural program, and then 10 for an artist-led grant. So we have 8,300 left over, which potentially is as high as 13,000 left over because of Michelle said that we could have 45 by the end of the year. So we're still safely in our budget range. Do you want me to just like split it, like 4 here and 4 there? So we get,
That'd be perfect.
That'd be perfect,
that
yeah.
sound like what
Do
you all
that.
are? Oh, but I don't want to do that. Hold on.
So that budget remaining does not include the potential 5,000 more? You said, sorry.
Right,
Right.
right.
Gotcha.
I'm still using these numbers. I know that we're gonna be flexible on it, but just to get me there. Oh, I have my mouse set opposite of this. Like, I don't scroll this way normally, so it's breaking my brain. Okay,
You rebel.
all right, we're there. What do y'all think? And we might be able to round these off a little nicer, get it to like 35 and 26, depending on what that final number looks like. I'll know more next month, but is this a good stopping point for our?
I think it's really
Draft.
wise.
Fantastic.
We're about to come out of, the so-called plague into what would be almost viewed as a renaissance. People are going to be wanting to get places that never really went out. So, I mean, putting our, visually the best foot forward in that aspect, I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think this is great.
Now it's the time to act on that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to be able to design that program and get some up on buildings that's a celebration.
Yeah, we're sitting here for a reason.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So you can run with this and then we'll receive a draft
I'll
copy.
get you the document. I'll try to get that to you. Like when you normally get your agenda a week before, I'll get you the draft document the week before the next meeting so you can read through it and just type up some of the notes. I'm just going to use the format that Greg used to use because it's simple and easy. So just be like a page on each of these things and then update some of the photos and stuff.
Do you need a motion or anything from us to move forward with this?
It'd be nice to have a motion to move forward with this on the screen as the draft budget for potential projects for 2021. Let me change, I can even change the title. 2022. All right.
I make a motion to accept the draft 2022 work plan.
We have a motion, a second. Roll call, please.
Marcia Carrington,
Yes.
Robin Lloyd,
Yes.
Chris Parthamore,
Yes.
Adam Ransdale,
Yes.
Brian Stanley,
Yes.
Martha Weichel,
Yes.
Michelle Newell,
Yes.
and Sean Daly.
Yes.
I get to vote too?
Aaron Blair.
Yes. Me too.
Great,
Thanks,
that
all.
motion carries forward to the draft plan, Aaron.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Do you have anything else to add to the work plan or?
That's all. That's what I got.
Okay. Have anybody with new business? I'm sorry, old business, sorry. No old business, any new business?
Well, I wouldn't say it's new business, but I was gonna make an announcement that my gallery is closing at the end of the year. But I have some backup plans, so I just, was gonna tell everyone to come by the gallery. I'm hoping to have a, closing on December 3rd, which is a Friday. And
Sorry, what day?
December 3rd. And I have my solo show up right now, which is my first in 6 years since opening the gallery. I've had 28 shows and shown over 150 artists, you included. But I'm working on some backup plans, and I'm in conversation with some venues in town, and ways to put on shows in Sandusky. So something will happen. I'll probably reorganize for the first part of the year and then announce where things are going. So I'll still stay involved.
I will say that it will be a very,
Say that.
it will be a very sad and tragic day when your gallery is not downtown.
It's breaking my heart.
I don't have any money left.
We all know, but just know that, like, it's sad and it's tragic.
I know it's been a kind of a mourning process for me, but I even looked into how I could just keep the gallery part and give up my studio and have the artists man the gallery, you know, like donate one day of their time if they're in the show. But then I found out if I only rent one space, my rent's gonna go up even higher. So
Yeah,
it's just a bad situation, you know? And so I have to kind of, I've been supporting the gallery for 6 years, pretty much myself. And through COVID, a lot of my own resources are not there either. Because I design for companies, product, greeting cards, or whatever, and people are just cutting back on stuff. So I'm not in a position to support it anymore. I wished I was, but I'm making something happen. It's not on the beaten path as far as, I'm making something happen behind my house, actually, which is only 8 blocks away. And it's only 100 square feet less. So, and then also talking to venues in town. So something will happen.
Yeah, I'm glad you're sticking around. We're not losing you from the community.
No, I feel I'm going to be involved, and I'm trying to look at it as a new beginning and positive instead of.
Yeah.
And right now I'm in a sea of boxes. But my gallery's still open till the end of the year. So I hope you guys can come by and see the show. And I did all this work since my mom passed, so it's a kind of because of her and having my first solo show at the gallery. So.
We look forward to the
Thank you.
next announcement in February, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
So we look forward to your next announcement early 2022.
Well, it won't be in February, but I definitely have plans. So
Good.
I'm not going away. I just can't stay at my present space. So I invested a lot of money in that space, but when I did, I was told by the previous owner that they weren't going to sell it. So that didn't happen.
Changes part of all this, but hopefully it'll be, like you said, a new beginning.
Yeah, it will be. It'll just be something new, and I hope you guys will all. I mean, I know that all the people who come to my gallery presently, you know, that follow the gallery will continue to come. So I know that. So things will happen.
On that note, I'll make a motion, we adjourn. Thank you.
Oh, Marcia.
Robin,
I got that email today.
Huh?
I got that email today, and I was just, oh my God, this is really happening.
Yeah.